Good morning. I picked a new book for you, Ellie, because you were disappointed, surprised that women didn't always have the right to vote. And so I thought I'd read you this biography about Susan B. Anthony because she was instrumental in getting women's rights to vote. And maybe you already know this, but biography is a book about an important person. It's not written by that person, it's written by somebody else. In fact, this was written by Pam Pollock about Susan B. Anthony. Now, if Susan B. Anthony wrote a book about herself, it would be called an autobiography. So like if you wrote a book about Elliott Marie Dively, it'd be an autobiography. I wrote a book about Elliott Marie Dively, it would be a biography. So this is a biography of Susan B. Anthony. And biographies are really cool. They read like fiction, but they're true. They're really about this person. Chapter 1 is a Quaker girl. Now, Quaker is a kind of religion, and it's pretty strict. And you'll hear about how that made a difference in how Susan B. Anthony was brought up. Susan B. Anthony was the second oldest of 7 children, 5 girls and 2 boys. She was born on February 15th, 1820. Her father, Daniel, was a Quaker. Her mother, Lucy, had been a Baptist until her marriage. The Quakers didn't believe in dancing, singing, fancy clothes, or drinking. But they did believe girls needed an education, just like boys did. So Susan and her sisters, Welma, Hannah, and Mary, would be educated along with her brothers, Daniel and Jacob, called Merritt. Her sister Eliza died when she was 2 years old. Susan lived in Adams, Massachusetts until she was 6. Massachusetts is way out on the East Coast. It touches the Atlantic Ocean. Mommy can probably show you on a map, or maybe you can find it on a United States map. And it's got, Massachusetts is kind of a rectangle with a little hook that sticks out into the ocean. Then the family moved to Battenville, where Susan's father opened a mill. Here's a drawing of her family. I don't know if you'd make it as a Quaker, no singing and dancing. One day, Susan came home from school upset. When the boys in her class were learning long division, When Susan asked her teacher if she could learn too, he said girls didn't need to learn long division. So Daniel Anthony set up his own school at home, where his daughters could get an equal education. Susan liked school. She also liked working at her father's mill whenever one of his employees got sick. She especially liked earning her own money, $3 for 2 weeks of work. She used her salary to buy her mother 6 coffee cups and saucers. Here's when she wanted to learn long division. Here are the coffee cups. But sometimes what happened at the mill puzzled Susan. One day she mentioned to her father that Sally Ann Hyatt, who was one of the workers, seemed to know more about weaving than her boss, Elijah. Why did Daniel not make her the boss? It would never do to have a woman overseer at the mill, her father replied. Susan accepted her father's word, but it didn't make sense to her. Why couldn't a woman be just as good a boss as a man? In the evenings after work and school were over, the family spent many happy hours together in the parlor. Daniel encouraged all his children to take an interest in the important issues of the day. One of these issues was temperance, the fight against making and drinking alcoholic beverages. Another was abolition, the fight against slavery. When Susan was 15, she started to teach the younger children at her father's school. 2 years later, she traveled to the nearby town of Easton to live with a family and teach their children reading and writing. When the lessons were done, Susan helped with the household chores. Here she is at her father's mill. And here she is teaching those children. Daniel knew how much his daughter loved learning. He enrolled her into Cora Molson's Female Seminary in Hamilton, Pennsylvania. Susan was not very happy at the seminary. She missed her family. Her time there was cut short by the Panic of 1837, an economic depression that wiped out many businesses in the United States, including Daniel's mill. Now the family had no money. All their possessions were put up for sale, including the cups and saucers Susan had given her mother. See, all these things have price tags on them. Even their eyeglasses and underwear were sold. Susan's father had always taught his children to be independent. Now it was time for Susan to show him what she had learned. She was going to earn her own living. And this, at the end of the chapter, there's this little extra page. It's called Quakers, and it teaches you about Quakers. So I'm going to read that to you too. The Quakers, also called Friends, are a religious movement. They believe that every person should follow the inner light of God inside themselves. The first Quakers in America came from England in the 17th century. Many came to America to find religious freedom, though at first the only colonies that accepted Quakers were Rhode Island and Pennsylvania. They were ordinary farmers who tried to live in a way that brought them closer to God. They wore simple clothes and didn't take part in pastimes like dancing, singing, or drinking alcohol. In the United States, they played a major role in the fight against slavery. The Quakers were one of the first groups to publicly condemn it. Here's a drawing of some Quakers having a meeting. Chapter 2 is called The Smartest Woman in Canajoharie. I hope I'm pronouncing that one right.